Okay, 11th class, proceeding further with the chapter birth. Now, Andrew Manson, a medical practitioner, he reached home midnight. He was really feeling very low as he had returned back after his meeting with his girlfriend, Christine. The meeting was a real disappointing one. Perhaps he had a clash, there was a clash or a fight between the two. As a result, the doctor, the medical practitioner, was really feeling out of place. He was very unhappy, but when he returned back home, he found, just give me a pause, please. Right. So when he returned back home, he found there was someone waiting for him at the doorway, right? It was Mr. Morgan. Now, Miss Doctor, it was Mr. Joe Morgan. Joe Morgan was his neighbor, and his wife was expecting a baby. She was in trouble. She was in labor pains, perhaps. And this trial was very crucial for the couple because it was 10 years after the marriage when the couple was expecting a baby. So Joe Morgan told Andrew Mason in a very hopeful manner that I know that you are going to do well for us. Now, though the doctor was really not feeling well, but along with Joe Morgan, he went to his home where he found that his wife really needed medical help at that hour. So she was taken there. Okay, she was taken there, and Mrs. Morgan was really in a very pathetic state. So doctor had to wait because the time of the delivery was, he had to wait for the right time. So while he was waiting, all sort of thoughts came to his mind about marriage, unhappy married life, about his friends, about Christine, what all he had, discussions he had with her. So everything passed over his mind. Then he found Joe's mother, Mrs. Morgan's mother there. She was an old lady, and she was very hopeful the doctor is going to do it all well for them. So doctor had an idea, Andrew Mason had the idea that actually the child was very crucial for the family, and the family desperately wanted the child and the mother to be fine. Now, when the baby was born, the striking thing was that the baby was lifeless, right? The baby was dead. It was not breathing. So this was a time when the doctor had to take some action, whatever he could do. And it was a very horrifying moment for the doctor himself. One, he had to prove himself, he had to prove his potential, his capabilities as a doctor. And the other, as he was very feeling very low emotionally that day, he had to overcome all those feelings and he had to pursue further his profession, as this is, as a doctor's profession is a noble profession where a doctor is regarded as next to God. He's a lifesaver. So, and all the eyes were upon him, or the entire hope was upon the doctor, right? So, I'm going to start, just a second, please. I'm going to continue from page number 67, right? Ankita, please read from this stanza. As he gazed at the still form, a shiver of horror passed over.
As he gazed at the still form, a shiver of horror passed over Andrew. After all that he had promised, his face, heated with his own exertions, chilled suddenly. He hesitated, torn, be- torn between his desire to attempt to resuscitate the child and his obligation towards the mother, who was herself in a desperate state. The dilemma was so urgent he did not solve it consciously. Blindly, instinctively, he gave the child to the nurse and turned his attention to Susan Morgan, who now lay collapsed, almost pulseless and not yet out of either. Upon her side, his, his haste was desperate, a frantic race against her ebbing strength. It took him only an instant to smash a glass ampoule and inject the medicine. Then he flung down the hypodermic syringe and worked up sparingly to restore the flaccid woman. After a few minutes of feverish effort, her heart strengthened. He saw that he might safely leave her. He swung around in his shirt sleeves, in his shirt sleeves, his hair sticking to his damp brow. Where's the child? The the midwife made a frightened gesture. She had placed it beneath the bed. In a flash, Andrew knelt down, fishing amongst the sodden newspaper below the bed. He pulled out a child, a boy perfectly formed. The limp, warm body was white and soft as tallow.
Form body was white and soft as tallow, the cord hastily slashed like a broken stem. The skin was of a lovely texture, smooth and tender. The head lolled on the thin neck. The limbs seemed boneless, right? So here the doctor found the nurse was also horrified, and in that hurry, she had laid the child beneath the bed, right? When doctor took out the baby out from the bed, underneath the bed, he picked up the baby. He realized that baby was absolutely, he was white in color, and the body was perfectly formed. There was no deformation in the body, but the child was not breathing, right? So the limbs seemed boneless. The limbs were very delicate, so they seemed boneless. The baby was very smooth and tender, right? Now everything, there was no kind of any kind of deformity was not there. Fine, but the child was not breathing. That was a big trouble. Okay. I think Ankita has got disconnected. So Saksham, you are still unmuted. I want you to continue. Please start. Saksham, you can start still.
Still kneeling, Andrew started at the child with a haggard frown. The whiteness meant only one thing, and his
Okay,
mind,
so here is
unnaturally tense, raced back to a case he once had seen in the Samaritan, to the treatment that had been used. Instantly he was on his feet.
now still kneeling. Andrew stared at the child with a haggard frown. The whiteness meant only one thing: asphyxia pallida. See, the child was white, absolutely white, but actually it indicated something else. Perhaps the child felt suffocated, or he was even in an unconscious condition due to lack of oxygen and excess of CO2 in the blood, right? Which was accompanied by paleness of the skin, weak pulse, and loss of reflexes. So it was a medical condition where the child was not getting sufficient oxygen to breathe in. Perhaps the CO2 level was much higher in the blood, so the child was unconscious. Now whether, see, this is that was the phase when the breathing of the child, the crying of the child at the time of the birth is very much required. Otherwise either the child is dead or the child is suffering from some or the other kind of a big trouble, abnormality, a deformation, right? So obviously the doctor was scared. Right now the child was not even breathing, right? So some immediate action had to be taken by the doctor. Generally we have, people might have notice this thing even when the person is in that drowning state. If the person is drowned and he is taken out of the water, then mouth to mouth respiration is given to bring his breath back, right? So the doctor realized that something has to be done, and he recalled which he had learned somewhere in during his medical practice. So he asked for hot water and cold water immediately. He threw out to the nurse and basins too. So he asked for hot water, cold water, basins. And then the doctor started doing something. Please continue reading from But Doctor.
But doctor, she faltered, her eyes on the pallid body of the child. Quick, he shouted, snatching a blanket. He laid the child upon it and began the special method of respiration. The basins arrived, the big iron kettle. Frantic, frantically, he splashed cold water into one basin, into the other. He mixed water as hot as his hand could bear. Then, like some crazy juggler, he hurried the child between the two, now plunging it into the icy, now into the steaming bath. 15 minutes
Okay, so
passed.
just a second. Just wait for please a second. Now that is what the doctor did. The doctor asked the nurse to get hot water and to get cold water too, right? Now, on one side was the hot water, and on the other side was the cold water. And the doctor started juggling the child between the hot water and the cold water, one after the other, right? Uh, he brought a blanket, he laid the child upon it, and he began this special method of respiration to bring the breath back of the child. That was what the doctor did. So, like a crazy juggler, he hurried the child between the two waters, hot and cold, plunging into the icy and then into the steaming bath water. Please continue. 15 minutes
15 minutes
passed.
passed. Sweat was now running into Andrew's eyes, blinding him. One of his sleeves hung down, dripping. His breath came pantingly, but no breath came from the lax body of the child. A
So
desperate
it was
sense.
almost 15 minutes. Just a second, please. It was almost 15 minutes. So doctor was sweating badly. He was panting. He was breathless now. But his sleeves were hanging down. The water was all over in the room because he was doing that juggling from hot water to cold water, juggling the baby from one water to another, one tub of water to another. But the child, there was no breath in the child. The child's body was still lax. It was still cold. Please continue.
A desperate sense of defeat pressed on him, a raging hopelessness. He felt the midwife watching him in stark consternation, while there, pressed back against the wall, where she had all the time remained, her hand pressed to her throat, uttering no sound, her eyes burning upon him, was the old woman. He remembered her longing for a grandchild, as great as had been her daughter's longing for this child, all dashed away now, futile beyond remedy.
Okay, please wait. See, now this was the major concern. One thing, he was a doctor, it was his job to save the life, right? When demanded, when asked, when requirement is there, the doctors, it's the foremost priority of the doctors to save the human life. Now, here, everybody was hopeful. All the eyes of all the family members were upon the doctor only. Whether it was Joe Morgan himself, whether it was Mrs. Morgan or Mrs. Morgan's mother, the old lady who was desperately waiting for her grandchild. Because it was after 10 years of her daughter's marriage that now she was able, that this hour was there that she could give birth to a child, right? The doctor was trying very hard, he was doing everything, but he was also hopeless now. He had tried everything whatever he could, but the child was still not breathing. And even the situation is very difficult for the doctors when they have to reply back to the family members, people who are hoping too much from you, and then when you make them hopeless, actually they are devastated, right? So here the doctor was also feeling the same man. Let's continue, please.
The floor was now a draggled mess, stumbling over a sopping towel. Andrew almost dropped the child, which was now wet and slippery in his hands like a strange white fish. For mercy's sake, doctor, whimpered the midwife, it's stillborn.
Okay, so the doctor was almost about to drop the child because the floor was all slippery because of water and soap there everywhere. So, but somehow he saved the child. And the midwife, there was another lady. She shouted, "The doctor, please, the child is not yet. I mean, you have not yet declared the child dead. Still, there is a hope." Andrew did not heed her. Andrew did not give any kind of attention to her. Please continue. Beaten, despairing.
Yes, ma'am. Beaten, despairing, having labored in vain for half an hour, he still persisted in one last effort, rubbing the child with a rough towel, crushing and releasing the little chest with both his hands, trying to get breath into that limp body.
So still, though he with doctor was also tired now because he have labored for almost half an hour. He had put in those efforts, but no result was there. So now the doctor still he did the last attempt that was of rubbing the little child with a rough towel, crushing and releasing his little chest with both the hands. This you might have seen several times. Also, doctors generally they do that thing. The chest is pressed a little bit to bring the breath back to give that respiration. Please continue.
And then, as by a miracle, the pygmy chest, which was his hand enclosed, gave a short, convulsive heave, another and another. Andrew turned giddy. The sense of life springing beneath his fingers after all that unavailing striving was so exquisite it almost made him faint. He redoubled his efforts feverishly. feverishly. The child was gasping now, deeper and deeper. A bubble of mucus came from one tiny nostril, a joyful, iridescent bubble. The limbs were no longer boneless. The head no longer lay back spinelessly. The blenched skin was slowly turning pink. Then, exquisitely, came the child's cry.
Okay, and then, as by a miracle, when he was rubbing the child's chest with the towel and he was pressing with both his hands, the pygmy chest, the pygmy here is referred to the little child because he's too small, he's too tiny. So the pygmy chest, which his hands enclosed, gave a short convulsive heave, another and another. So there was like a deep breath. Though it was, after a long gap, it was there, but there was a breath. So now Andrew had hope again. The sense of life springing beneath his fingers, and after all that unavailing striving was so exquisite. So it was obviously that moment was great, exquisite for Andrew too, because he was able to save a life. He was able to bring back life into a little child for whom the entire family was waiting so desperately. So the child was gasping now, and a bubble of mucus came from one tiny nostril. So his small nostril, there was some liquid mucus coming out of it, which gave an indication that the child was breathing, right? So they head no longer lay back. The head was now no longer hanging as if there is no spine at all. The skin, which was earlier pale and placid, now it was turning pink. Then exquisitely came the child's cry, and then finally the child cried. As I told you, the cry of the child at the time of the birth is very much, it's essential, because this indicates the normality of the child in all the forms, right? If the child is not crying, that means something is wrong. The child is abnormal, some kind of abnormality may be there. So, dear Father in heaven, the nurse sobbed hysterically, it's come alive. So, even the nurse shouted, it's come alive. The child is alive. Please continue reading.
Andrew handed her the child. He felt weak and dazed. About him, the room lay in the shuddering litter. Blankets, towels, basins, soiled instruments, the hypodermic syringe impaled by its point in the linoleum, The ewer knocked over the kettle on its side in a puddle of water. Upon the huddled bed, the mother still dreamed her way quietly through the anesthetic. The old woman still stood against the wall, but her hands were together. Her lips moved without sound. She was praying.
Okay, now this is the condition of the room after the child was brought back to life. The entire place was messed up because of the basins, the water, the hot water, the jiggling of the child from hot water to cold water. What the doctor had done, it had messed up the room. The entire things, the syringe, the everything was, in that messed up manner. The kettle on its side in a puddle of water. So upon the huddle bed, the mother still dreamed away quite through the anesthetic because the lady was given a dose of anesthesia. So she was still not in full of her senses. The old woman still stood against the wall. Old woman is Mrs. Morgan's mother. She was standing against, leaning against the wall, and her lips were moving in prayer. This is something very natural. People at time, I mean, at the time of difficulty, when there is no other way, we you know start praying. We seek help from the Almighty. So perhaps that was the thing which Joe's mother was also doing. So mechanically, Andrew wrung out his sleeve, pulled on his jacket. I'll fetch my bag later, nurse. So Andrew was also so happy, so glad. I mean, the kind of the feeling when he entered into Joe Morgan's house. He was not well that day. He was really feeling very low. He was emotionally all imbalanced because of his fight with Christine. And he felt really disappointed, right? But then the call of his profession was to cure the child, was to give birth to the child, to ensure the well-being of the mother and the child, and to ensure that the baby was delivered all perfectly, right? But when the baby was born, the baby was lifeless. So this troubled the doctor because all the eyes, all the hopes were upon the doctor. Moreover, the child was very crucial. I mean, every child is important for a family, but then this child was special because the child was born 10 years after the marriage of Mr. and Mrs. Morgan. And Mrs. Joe Morgan's mother was there. She was an old lady and she could not do anything. But somewhere, even she indicated the doctor, Doctor, I know you can do it. You are like God to us. So these words were like, the entire hopes, the entire responsibility was on Andrew's shoulders now. So he had to do it. He had to overcome his personal problems, his personal sad, disheartening experiences, the disappointments which he had gone through. He had to overcome all those feelings and he had to raise above in his profession, prove his prove his professional potentials and capabilities, and with that noble gesture, ensuring the well-being of his patient. Right? So that is what he did. So I'm just finishing the last stanza. He went downstairs through the kitchen into the scullery. Scullery is a room for washing dishes and for a similar work. So his lips were dry. At the scullery, he took a long drink of water. So he had a glass of water because obviously even he was restless. So after the child was perfectly fine, the child cried, he relaxed, and he went downstairs and had a glass of water. He reached for his hat and coat. Outside, he found Joe standing on the pavement with a tense, expectant face. So, Joe Morgan, you remember when Joe had brought Andrew um, to his house, Joe told him that I'll be standing outside the house because he was perhaps he could not bear the pain what his wife was going through, and that moment was very sensitive for him too. So he didn't want to enter into the house. He was just waiting for the news at his door only. So, all right, Joe, he said thickly. Both all right. So the doctor told him, all right, Joe, both all right. Both here refers to the mother and the child, means Mrs. Joe Morgan and the child, both were all right. It was quite light, nearly 5 o'clock. Now it was almost 5 o'clock in the morning. A few miners were already in the street, the first of the night shift moving out. As Andrew walked with them, spent and slow, his footfalls echoing with the others under the morning sky, he kept thinking blindly, oblivious to all other work he had done in Blenley. I have done something, oh God, I have done something real at last. So this statement is very important, where he is going back to his house along with the miners who were generally leave their house early in the morning for their work. And he just tried, his footsteps were matching theirs. And he said, "Oh God, I've done something real at last." So that is, the statement tells about his sense of accomplishment, the sense of satisfaction which his profession had given him, especially by saving the little child, by saving the mother. He was, saving the human life. That is what the priority of a doctor is, right? So he was able to justify his profession. His being a medical practitioner was justified here, and he said that finally I'm able to do something which is real at last. So he was able to overcome those sad and disappointing emotions which he had gone through just at night after his meeting with his girlfriend, and now he was perfectly feeling, contented. The sense of satisfaction, the contentment, that sense of accomplishment which this job had given him. Right? I think we can stop here.